Don't want to drop big money on a new gaming console? Well, Google says you don't have to. I'm going to give Google Stadia cloud gaming service a spin next.
This is Twit.
This episode of Hands on Tech is brought to you by Plex. Plex is offering $10 off the lifetime Plex Pass subscription for new subscribers only at plex.tv/twit, code TWIT10. Google really likes to release its things early, meaning Google doesn't mind letting some of its users in on a product or hardware it's releasing before it's perhaps all cooked. In the tech world, this is absolutely nothing new. The Stadia Founders Edition definitely falls into that category, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. It's just important to note that going in. So, what is Stadia? Well, Stadia is what a Google game console would be, but without the actual console. Stadia is totally cloud-based, meaning it leans on Google's cloud servers to run and store the games in its library. Everything is streamed from those servers to a player's device, and that device could be a TV with a Chromecast Ultra that's capable of 4K streaming. It could also be a Chromebook or a laptop running the Chrome browser. It could even be a Google Pixel phone. It makes a lot of promises, and it's quite intriguing, actually. No costly console purchase needed, just a $69 controller coupled with a $9.99 monthly subscription for 4K to get the Stadia service. You can get 1080p for free. And with that, players can get AAA games streamed to their devices in full 4K resolution at its peak with a support for HDR, 60 frames per second, and 5.1 surround sound. Whew. Even better, because the games are running on Google servers in the cloud, it's like you're playing the beefiest gaming computer with the highest quality rendering settings on. And updates will be done automatically behind the scenes, so many of the annoying asterisks associated with PC gaming is kind of removed from the equation for the player. Just fire up the app, sync up the Stadia controller that I have right here, and play top-tier games. But is this the future of gaming? Let's take a look at the Stadia Founders Edition. This is what you get in the Founders Edition. This whole package right here cost $130. We pre-ordered back in June. It includes the controller that you have here, which I'm going to talk about in a second. And it also has this Chromecast Ultra. This is the Chromecast that streams 4K resolution, HDMI port. And then finally, this is the power for the Chromecast Ultra. And important to note, it does have the wired Ethernet option. So you don't have to go fully wireless with the Chromecast Ultra. You can wire it, and you're probably just going to get better stability out of your streaming with Stadia when you do that. The controller, I will say, it's got a really nice design. It feels really good in the hands. The buttons feel nice. Everything, the layout, it's all laid out really nicely. You've got your pretty standard, controllers, analog and digital controllers, as well as the 4-button layout. 4 shoulder buttons up here. But then you have kind of exclusive to the Stadia layout, you have this options button, which are the 3 dots. You've got the menu button right here. This is a capture button for when you want to capture things. And in this early preview, that's not a feature that's live. Neither is this. This is the Assistant, the Google Assistant button. And that's not live during this early preview as well. You can kind of see as I'm moving the controller around, there's little scratches throughout. We were pretty delicate with this controller, yet it seems to pick up marks pretty easily. Some of these marks actually came from this. This is a smartphone mount that you can snap onto the top. This was included in the box, but I don't believe that this is actually included in the official Founders Edition. But in snapping it to the controller and off, it was already leaving some marks and stuff. So if you're OCD, that may bother you over time. But overall, the controller, I really like the feel of it. Other features that you'll find here on the bottom, a 3.5 millimeter headphone jack for plugging in headphones. Also has a little microphone. Again, this is another feature that is not active during this early preview, but you can use that microphone to talk inside of games and stuff like that. And then up on the top, just a USB-C charging port. I will say one thing I really like about this controller, aside from the ergonomic feel and how comfortable it is in the hands, it has the haptic the kind of rumble effect happening in each of these arms, and I felt like it's a pretty strong haptic kick to it, so I really like it. Another unique feature of this controller is that it connects to the internet via Wi-Fi directly. Okay, so this isn't like Bluetooth to the Chromecast. This is actually reaching out via Wi-Fi to the internet, and they do that to cut down even further on latency. So that does improve things somewhat. For this preview that I did, the Stadia controller actually operates in wireless mode only when it's connected to the Chromecast Ultra. In order to test with the Pixelbook and the Pixel 4 XL, which I'll talk about in a second, it had to be wired, so I had to plug from the USB-C port directly into those devices. Google does say that wireless support for all of these platforms is coming early 2020. Now, as for third-party controllers, Stadia does support third-party controllers like this one, the DualShock 4 controller that you might have hanging around, although it's mixed support right now for different platforms. TV, it's not going to work, although it will work with Google Chrome and some of the Pixel phones, whether it's wired or via Bluetooth. So the big concern among gamers is whether a fully cloud-based top-tier console can go toe-to-toe with the expensive consoles that we're used to buying and plugging directly into our home theater systems. How does the internet affect the gaming experience when it's all streaming from the cloud? Well, I fired up Stadia on my Pixelbook wirelessly, getting 22 megabits per second down, 90 megabits per second up. And I had some, let's just say, serious stuttering issues. I was playing Mortal Kombat 11. It's a fast-paced button masher. And I could keep up even when the video stopped and started, but only because I was just pressing buttons like a madman. There's no way that I'd be really happy if this was my everyday experience. On my Pixel 4 XL, I enjoyed, I would say, a pretty seamless experience. Of course, I was getting 109 megabits per second down and 169 megabits per second up, but everything felt really smooth. I was really enjoying this, actually the phone mount that attaches the phone to the top of the controller. And I'm not so sure this phone mount is actually included in the Founders Edition. It was outside of the Founders Edition box, but it was in the box that Google sent over, and it's a nice addition, so maybe look out for that. But the forced portrait mode that you see in the Stadia app when you're selecting games, that's weird. Definitely not ideal. And finally, on the included Chromecast Ultra, which was a wired connection pulling 90 megabits per second down and 10 megabits per second up, things looked crystal clear on our big 4K Samsung display most of the time. When 4K was locked in, everything was beautiful and impressive, but you just never knew when suddenly, out of the blue, everything would just down-res. No one wants to lose a tournament due to some random network fluctuation, and that's the reality of cloud-based streaming game content, I suppose. Another factor that could make or break Stadia is latency, and in my time playing these games, I've noticed little personally in the way of latency that negatively affected my own gameplay. Anthony, producer of Hands on Tech, did some tests and number crunching running Shadow of the Tomb Raider on PS4 Pro and then also on the Stadia to compare the latency between the two. And the PS4 Pro averaged 123 milliseconds. Stadia averaged 239 milliseconds, almost exactly 2 times the amount of latency. Thing is, I couldn't really notice a negative effect on my gameplay experience, but I don't play competitively. I'm not saying there isn't a difference, I'm just saying the latency worked for me, but twice the latency is worrisome on paper, so your mileage may vary. Okay, so the jury is totally still out for me. I'm down with the promise of Stadia, letting Google handle the heavy lifting and just showing up with a dumb browser or a phone along with a Stadia controller is pretty sweet from a convenience standpoint. But the big challenge for Google is making the experience seamless enough. Will gamers forgive Stadia when it begins to stutter, or throughout the course of a session, video quality waffles sporadically between full 4K resolution and any number of inferior resolutions at random? I've had to remind myself that this is early. The Stadia Founders Edition is only shipping out to people who pre-ordered months ago to be in on the ground floor of something very new and different. The rest of the public should get access to this stuff early next year. And when that happens, Google plans to have a number of features that were disabled for this early preview active and ready for the masses. But will gamers forgive and forget these early issues by the time it's out for everyone? Something tells me that's asking a lot. I'm Jason Howell, and I love checking out anything Google releases on All About Android and here on twit.tv. This episode of Hands on Tech is brought to you by Plex. With Plex, you can organize and stream your personal collection of movies, TV shows, music, and photos anywhere on any device. Give your media the royal treatment it deserves with the Plex Pass and get premium features that include premium music, mobile sync, trailers, parental controls, and more. Plex is offering $10 off the lifetime Plex Pass subscription for new subscribers only at plex.tv/twit, code TWIT10. That's plex.tv/twit and enter code TWIT10.
Keep up with all the hottest tech news and gadgets. Visit twit.tv. There you'll be able to find and subscribe to all our tech shows. Thanks for watching Hands on Tech.